All right, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Boiler Express podcast. Typically, we would start off with our intro video. Tonight, we're just going to do things a little bit differently, just due to the recent tragedy that happened at Michigan State um, within the last few days. So, first, we'd just like to extend our thoughts, prayers to everybody in the Michigan State community. We're thinking of all of you guys, and we, hope that you guys can continue to get stronger and um, walk through this difficult time. And hopefully you have that support around you as you navigate that. So just to start off, we'd like to just do a moment of silence, and then we'll get into the regular scheduled programming. So. All right, and we're back. So yeah, welcome back everybody to the Boiler Express podcast. We've got a lot to talk about, and as always, you got myself, the Ultimate Boiler. We've got Dylan, Chris, or 50 Ghost, Frank, the Stat Tank. Russ is old and can't figure out how to turn on his computer, so we're not going to be able to see him tonight. Russ,
So happy we fit in an old joke. Way to go, David.
I do what I can. But no, Russ is busy tonight and unable to attend. But yeah, so we've got a lot to talk about. Not only just this week in men's basketball, but in other news, Purdue continues to take things away from Tennessee as Purdue football has hired their director of recruiting. So I can't remember what her name is off the top of my head, but she's now the director of recruiting at Purdue. So we do not feel sorry for you, Tennessee. No
Female?
condolences.
I didn't realize. That's
you.
awesome.
Yeah, so I don't know what to say more about that, but haha, Tennessee. And then girls basketball, I don't know if they played more than one game this past week, but I know that they beat Rutgers pretty handily the same day that we played Northwestern, or the men's team played Northwestern. So Katie Gerald's and company continuing to just do what they do and build a really special program in the quick time that she's done it too, which is amazing. But do you guys have any thoughts on anything, whether that's football or the women's basketball game or anything like that?
George Karlaftis, Super Bowl champion.
Oh yeah, that too, I guess.
That boy, George.
Even if it's on the Chiefs. So
let's divert here for 1 second. What did you all think about that call at the end? Is it legit?
Oh, the holding call, or
the holding call.
So it's
part of the
legit,
script.
but I saw them not call about the same amount or more the rest of the game. So that's where I was annoyed, because I felt like, again, it's consistency, right? If you call it in the first quarter, you should call it in the fourth quarter.
For me as a Purdue fan, it gave me flashbacks of the Minnesota game where Payne Durham got the offensive pass interference call. So I was immediately enraged. Yeah, I thought it was like, yeah, it's the letter of the law, maybe, but like it was a very weak call, in my opinion. Like, yes, you can call that, but it's like, come on, dude. Really, it's a Super Bowl, and you're gonna call, that, and that ball wasn't even catchable, in my opinion. I think it was way over Juju's head.
Well, maybe it would have been if he wasn't held. I'm not saying I disagree.
If he wasn't tickled, you mean? If he wasn't, like,
I'm just saying, I'm just playing devil. And like I've heard people say, like, well, you can't make that call at the end of the Super Bowl. I'm like, well, if you can make a call in the first quarter in a regulation game, like it's like, but yeah, the issue is consistency. But Dylan, what'd you think?
It's all part of the script. We know that. I mean, Roger Goodell and his screenwriters. It's all part of the deal.
We're gonna have to ask Bryson what's in the script for Los Angeles next season. Whenever he gets that,
that'll be good stuff.
To me, it sort of seemed like some bait, because Juju like went in and then immediately 180 and went out. So it's like you're either going to give up a touchdown or you're going to get some contacts, which, maybe that was or wasn't the intent of that play. But I don't know. I thought it was 50-50.
I wanted Juju to score as well. I had a parlay for the Chiefs to make the comeback, I bet, at halftime, and then for Juju to score a touchdown. And that would have paid me pretty handsomely. And there was like 2 drives where they continued to go to Juju like 3 or 4 times, and then they'd get in the red zone and they would almost do like a fake out where you would think it was going to go to Juju again because he's been hot that whole drive, and then they dish it to some nobody that's playing on the left side. So
I just needed Philly to win, and I was going to win like $120. And piss me off.
Dude, my dad. Oh, so speaking of the Super Bowl, my dad. Somebody is in trouble because somebody told my dad about sports betting. So he literally called
downhill
me.
from here.
Yeah, he called me so many times Sunday, and he goes, "Can you pull up your phone here?" Josh is, and Josh is my cousin. So Josh, Dad, if you guys are listening, shout out you guys. But he's like, "Yeah, Josh is telling me to all these kinds of bets. And did you know you could bet on the coin toss?" And it's all sort of, I was like, "Oh God." He's like, I'm trying to find I'm trying to bet on Rihanna's song, the first song she's gonna sing, because I know what it's gonna be. And then he starts singing it, and I was like, "Oh God."
Mr. Ultimate Boiler, huge Rihanna fan.
Yeah.
By the way, my
Love it.
sister told me today it's pronounced Rihanna.
No.
If you're in
That's
the
wrong.
What kind
South,
of
maybe.
methamphetamine's your sister on?
Oh, she is absolutely. She's not watching, but hey, I can talk more crap about her. But yeah, Rihanna, it's Rihanna.
Yeah, no offense to your sister, but what the
Nailed it.
Maybe that's how they say it, like down in Mississippi or Tennessee or something.
That
That's that Rihanna up there.
We do. Our family does come from the hills of Kentucky, so it could be, hey man, that's Rihanna down yonder. It could be one of those. Who knows?
Yeah.
How did you?
Yeah, I saw some memes about her halftime performance, and I think it was people. I didn't know that she was. I mean, it makes sense that she was strapped in or whatever, like had the safety harness and everything. But some people were like, "This." It was like a screenshot of her like way up in the sky, and it was like, I don't want to hear OSHA ever complain about anything ever again.
So she's with child right now, right?
I think so.
Yes.
So
She made the child made the Super Bowl before the Cowboys did.
Oh, I wish Russ was here for that one. That was a good one.
I'm just gonna go.
But can that kid now? Can that kid now say he or she performed in the Super Bowl? I mean,
I would see why not.
I would if I were that kid. I would say that forever.
Yeah, and speaking of OSHA, those damn road pirates, freaking coming in, fines and whatnot.
Oh man,
like damn parking
Go,
people.
Chris, go.
Get me going.
This is Chris's therapy segment.
No, I'm in a mood today, so
he's pissing vinegar. Beep. My bad.
Canceled immediately.
Dude, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, Chris beat that out. I mean, that was done.
Oh
right,
man,
focus.
Off to a hot start, boys. Let's go.
Yeah, so Purdue basketball. We were coming off the loss to IU on Sunday, and had that game against Iowa Thursday, and I think there were some mixed feelings about the game. It's about the Iowa game before it started. It seemed like there was a lot of concern just in the fan base in general. Of course, there's always that confidence because we're playing at Mackey. But it was that, okay, we're late into the season. Purdue typically tends to kind of falter at this point in the season. How are we going to respond? And of course, when Dan Dockich says something about Braden Smith goes off that next game. So incredible game by Braden and the rest of the guys. Of course, there was the trouble with the press there in the second half that we'll talk about. But overall, I mean, I think when you're getting – and by the way, it's not just any press. When Iowa presses the ball or presses Purdue, it's like them chasing – it's like a hyena chasing after its prey. They're just like out there like full-on sprinting, chasing them down. It's kind of crazy to watch. But what did you guys think, at least for the first half anyway? How did you guys feel?
The first half, I was feeling good. Everything seemed to be flowing well. They did press us quite a bit in the first half. It's an easy thing to forget when it doesn't really give you much trouble. But Braden was just kind of handling it on his own, wasn't really needing any help, and was just kind of blowing by their guards. They weren't pressing as intensely or kind of in the same way that they did in the second half. But yeah, first half, we were flowing. Braden was hitting shots. I mean, he wasn't missing. He was just getting those little quick ball screens right into a pull-up three, and everything was flowing well defensively, offensively. Yeah, no complaints about the first half at all.
Yeah, and I just saw the total rebounds. We out rebounded, and this is for the whole game, but we out rebounded Iowa by 20. We had 43 rebounds to their 23. So, um, and then
So
we had
just talking
20
about the press, I actually just looked it up. And according to Synergy, we're still ranked excellent even after everything that's transpired in the last week.
Yeah, we're in the
Or the doubters.
we're the 90th percentile against in press offense out of all teams right now. So
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so in really when I think about the first half of Iowa, I think about Braden. I think about him just going off and showing up, and that I like there's an emerging pattern, which hopefully not too emerging, but both games after coming off of losses, he's gone off. Like he went off against Ohio State right after we lost to Rutgers, and was the Ken Pom MVP of that game. Was the Ken Pom MVP against Iowa? Right after we lost to Indiana. So if I'm Maryland, I might pay a little bit more attention to him because we get to see post-loss Braden for the third time. We'll see if that trend continues.
Have all the losses and have the next games after all the losses been at home, or have they been has it been like a mix of home and away? Just curious.
So no, we were at Ohio State. He put up 16, 50% from three.
Nice.
In that game, had 6 assists, 1 turnover. And then against Iowa, I mean, it's 4 for 5 from 3, 4 for 5 from 2, 24 points, 4 for 4 at the line. He did have 4 turnovers, 5 assists, and a steal. So
and that Ohio State game was really kind of considered like the true tough, like Big Ten road environment that like we'd played at Nebraska, and I get that, but like Ohio State and Nebraska is two kind of different animals.
The day that Ohio State died.
That team
tanked
after that.
Just crazy.
I live for
but it's cool to hear that it's like a mix of home and away games, because I was kind of worried about like, okay, how's he going to respond in an away game? Which I always hear about Maryland's crazy environment. Then I see like screenshots of like their stadium like right at tip off, and it's like 30% full. So I don't really get that, but
they got Scott Van Pelt though. So
I mean, and they're the ones who the best they could do is "You are ugly" when Isaac Haas was shooting, which I remember hearing that and thinking like that's not even that's just stupid.
And
like,
Haas was handsome. He was
a very handsome man. He was a handsome man. Still
that
is.
One square jaw having.
Yeah, the man's got a chin of a shovel. I mean, it's just
like
I saw his chin plowing my road a couple weeks ago.
If I was shooting free throws and 5,000 students are chanting "You're ugly," I would just laugh. Like, which maybe that's what they were going for. Maybe they were just trying to lower his level of seriousness a little bit.
You chant that at me, and I'm gonna be like, I agree. All right,
yeah. Not wrong.
Yeah, I'm just gonna shoot this free throw now.
I already hate myself enough.
You guys should be laughing at my wife instead. She actually married me.
Hey, shout out Valentine's Day. Shout out to all our
stupid freaking holiday.
Okay, Chris is not a Valentine's Day. All right, not a Valentine's Day guy.
And speaking of a free throw chance, and I know we're going to talk about Northwestern here in a minute, but it was kind of out of nowhere with the whole DUI chant for Mason Gillis. Like that happened years ago, right? Like years ago.
Beginning of last
season.
Beginning of last season. It felt like it was way longer than that. I guess COVID's thrown off my whole timeline, but yeah, just really random. Them all their black balloons, weirdos.
Congratulations, you had your Super Bowl, and your coach cried afterward.
And before we get into the negative about Iowa, I want to say one more positive thing is that Edey had a quote unquote off night. And it wasn't that he had an off night from an efficiency standpoint. He was 4 for 7 from the floor, but he only took 7 shots. Was 6 for 6 at the line. Only scored 14 points. You had Braden with 24, Fletcher with 17, Caleb First with 11, Mason Gillis with 10. It was just nice to see us win a game by 14 points without having Edey be the pony that we ride, I guess is what we'll call it.
It's a big pony.
Now, I mean, his gravity, definitely is going to get open shots for guys like it did in that game too. They did double him some. So, I mean, yeah, like maybe those guys aren't getting those shots if he's not drawing all that attention. But it was just nice to see us win a game, without him having to kind of carry more than one might say is his fair share. So that was kind of the other thing I felt was kind of necessary to.
Edey's new nickname's going to be Isaac Newton. Matter of gravity, because
Okay,
everybody
yeah.
gravitates.
Nailed it.
I was waiting for that to get pulled in. I was like, I'm not sure where that's going.
Yeah, I was really confused.
Long time. Like, there it is.
But the
Sorry,
press,
I'm a
I
soup
think
sandwich today.
it feels it seems like everyone has this like general notion about the press, and we crumbled against the press, and we did a terrible job against the press, and I pulled some play-by-play data. We were pressed, I think it was 38 times in that game. I'll tell you exactly what it was.
And
39 times.
And just to
Brought
add
to
to
you
that
by
real
Frank's
quick
Big Brain.
is that none of this would even be being talked about if Iowa just missed the shots that they shot. If they hadn't hit, if they didn't bring it within, I think it was like 6 or 7 or whatever it was, I don't think this would even be a discussion. Like, oh man, we turned it over, but like we still won by however much.
Well, so we turned it over 12 times. And I think that actually, no, was it more than 12? We turned it over 12 times in the second half. But, I think it was 8 of those 12, maybe 7 of those 12 were in the half court. They weren't from Iowa's press. They were just us turning it over and Iowa running out and trying to score in transition, which Purdue is not a good transition defense team. We haven't been all season. And so people have talked about, well, the press, that's the blueprint to beat Purdue. You got to press them, or, attacking Purdue's drop coverage. That's the way you beat Purdue. And I mean, if there's a way to beat Purdue, it's to turn us over and try to score in transition, in my opinion. Like, we're not good at transition defense. We saw it against Northwestern. So it's easy to think like, well, Iowa's pressing, and then you think, okay, I have like flashbacks of them like scoring quickly in transition. It must have been from the press, but the majority of our turnovers weren't from their press. Like I said, we were pressed 39 times to different degrees, but largely it didn't really give us that much trouble.
Do you think Rick Mount was at home watching the game and it got in within 6 and was just like, son of a bit?
I mean, hopefully, Rick Mount's still watching the Boilers religiously. I would like to think so, but Iowa's one team for that reason that I will never be comfortable with any lead. Like, they just, we see it way too often.
Yeah, and
Papa,
how's it going, man?
Oh, there goes the we were having such a good show.
You mind if I join in real quick? Yeah.
How's your dial-up,
Did you take your Geritol there, Grandpa?
I was stuck on the toilet for about 30 minutes there. I'm sorry, guys.
Man, happy
This
you're
is
here,
just
Russ.
off the rails today.
You missed a great Cowboys joke by Damon.
No, it was by
me.
Chris.
Or by Chris, sorry.
Yeah. I said that Rihanna's baby got to the Super Bowl before the Cowboys did.
Nice. Okay. All right. What about the Bengals?
Oh, I'm not a Bengals fan. I don't care.
Yeah. Take that, Gramps.
Russ, we were discussing Iowa. What were your thoughts about Iowa and how we performed or didn't perform? What'd you think?
I mean, I thought it was classic Iowa, right? We storm out to a great halftime lead, and then we're kind of clinching the whole way through the second half. They start pressing, and it looks like we're doing bad against the press, but then you go back and look at the stats, and it actually wasn't terrible. We just weren't hitting a few shots, and all of a sudden they got right back in it. But we steadied the ship like we have so many times this season when it seems like a team's starting to come back on us, and we got the job done.
I mean, so just to be clear, I'm not saying turnovers weren't an issue, but the press wasn't really what was causing the majority of the turnovers in that game. Is the point I was trying to make? But yeah, seems to be every home Iowa game. Like, I'm more comfortable playing Iowa on the road. Honestly, we seem to handle them better at their place than we do at Mackey, but could just be recency bias.
Yeah, Iowa was where we broke the 3-point scoring record in a game back in like 2018 or something, where we hit like 19 threes against them.
Yeah, that was at Iowa. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember we won by it was in the 20s, or at least it was close to 30. We just decimated them that game. I remember they couldn't miss. It was crazy to watch. Yeah, and then we had the game Sunday against Northwestern, which we all kind of talked earlier in the last podcast or episode that, out of these two games, this one was the one that kind of worried us the most. And for different reasons. Sorry, this dang logo's in my face. What'd you guys think of the Northwestern game? At least the first half. We'll break down that first half first. I thought the first half was okay. Wasn't great, but it was okay. It was enough. So,
yeah, I mean, my big thing in the
you complain about the logo being in your face, and then it covers everyone. So it's, you know.
Yeah, because Chris is 5 years old.
And I'm 50.
Why do you make 50 sound like 85?
Yeah, don't give yourself credit. You're at least 82. All right. 50's, 50's a little young. I'm balding.
Russ was begging for change from John Purdue.
Rick Mount still play for the Boilers?
Yeah,
And
Russ was there for the first game
uphill.
of Mackey.
And he walked to school uphill both ways in the snow.
Russ was there for the original Rick Mount night.
I used to sit on a hill and watch Purdue run out on that.
This is what Russ tells his kids all the time. Like, you whippersnappers. Damn kids.
Focus.
Right. Let's let the adult Frank the big brain talk.
I think Damon was talking, actually.
Oh, yeah. One of the adults. Don't let Chris or I talk.
We're done. Frank, you got it.
I feel like in the first half, Painter said it in his post game or his halftime interview. He said it on his radio show that we played really good defense. We just got some bad luck. The ROI wasn't there from playing really good defense. They had some balls bounced away. They had some really, really tough shots go in. The big thing I think we could have done better is rebound. I think we gave up like 5 offensive rebounds in the first half that led to 3 of which led to easy putbacks, 1 of which led to a whole nother possession run and a made basket. So we were we up 6 at halftime, I think. Like clean that up,
7 or 6, yeah.
Yeah, clean that up, and we're up 12, 13 at halftime.
Painter, I know post game specifically talked about that offensive rebound that kicked out to the 3 late in the game, which was just a backbreaker.
Yeah, I mean, and that really like with the defensive effort was good in the first half. I don't think we were quite expecting the level of physicality that they brought, but we made up for it on the defensive end. Like I said, they had some bad shots or some bad breaks for Purdue. Some good breaks from Northwestern. From our defensive effort, but overall it was a pretty good first half. It was well officiated too.
Yeah, and what was interesting is that we typically out rebound teams by a pretty good margin, and I think the Northwestern
I like a bazillion
had either the lead at the end of the first half or it was very close, which is not like us at all. I felt like, and I say feel very strongly because I don't know for sure. I didn't sit there and count them, but felt like there was a lot of like one hand attempts at rebounds, not like going up with 2 hands. Doing the fundamental.
When your arm's getting grabbed, it's hard.
I
to
went
go
real south there.
hands.
Wow, fundamental.
I think teams use the Red Rover rebounding technique against us too. So
it's easy. It's hard to get both hands up when you're getting tackled.
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of dancing around, and let's just talk about the officiating. And I think a great place to start is the shot clock violation in the second.
That was bull.
It's the second time. Yeah, that was good. That was the second time in 4 games that we were called for a shot clock violation that one could argue maybe we shouldn't have been called for. When you get an offensive rebound and the shot clock resets. What's he supposed to do? Is Fletcher supposed to like argue with the official and say like, no, I don't think that hit the rim, or is he supposed to just chuck up a shot because he thinks he knows? But I mean, there's just
it's so dumb.
I hate it, because you get the rebound. The first thing you're going to do on an offensive rebound, I would think, is you're going to look up at that shot clock and you're not paying attention to whether the referee's got that call right or not. And so that's the second time, in 4 games that we've had that call, or we've been on the bad end of that call. Painter said he expects to see a rule, it's kind of put in place to sort of change that. I don't really know how you go about fixing that, but I just thought that didn't cost us the game. But that was just really, really bad in my opinion.
Yeah. Did you mention that he said you're basically penalizing the players for whoever's operating the shot clock not doing their job?
Yeah.
And the officials not recognizing it quickly enough that they just happen to recognize it right at the time that it equaled 30 seconds.
Yeah.
He said basically, if Fletch has the ball and sees that there's 7 seconds on the clock, even if there's nothing there, he's going to get something up. He's going to get a shot up. He's going to get a layup, drive, something. he's not going to, look up, see it at 7 and just hold it and get the violation. It's not going to happen.
Right. And like, what player is going to rebound the ball and then think, okay, I'm going to look at the operators and be like, am I good? Is it good? Like that's just so dumb. You can't penalize the team for the mistake of a shot. Somebody that's not even playing on the team, somebody that is completely neutral to the whole thing. And you're penalizing the team. It makes no sense. But what were some other now that we're on the subject of these calls, Russ, I think you might have you might feel a type of way about this game. So what were some of the other calls that you saw that
feelings?
You want me to jump right to the little
Full send it, dude.
Yeah.
I want to see. I was waiting for like the piece of paper to like unroll and just see.
I've got like
I'm waiting. Jeez,
oh wow.
So
wrote a thesis on it.
Obviously we're all upset at the second half officiating.
Don't have a freaking notebook.
You could tell how Edey looked, like he was gonna literally, take somebody's life over the officials. He didn't want to answer the questions. I don't know how the guys asking questions to him after the game felt, because I'd have been shaking a little bit, even going, "Hey, how do you feel there, big guy?" But Painter also talked about it was definitely two different games. And he, to Painter's credit, he says something about, hey, this call is missed or they need to change this rule. But then he jumps straight to, but we can't turn the ball over. We've got to hit the shots. We made this stupid mistake. He doesn't dwell on it like certain Izzo coaches do. It's definitely frustrating when you see guys basically all over the floor on our end when we're running, even 90 feet from the basket, they're mauling us. I mean, there's 1 or 2 rebounds we got defensively where 1 or 2 of our guys were on the ground and somebody else at least hauled in the rebound. And we got, to at least go down and try to run offense before we got mugged somewhere else. There was one play specifically, that I think it was like Edey took 2 shot attempts and then first got an offensive rebound and took a shot attempt. And then Edey happened to just barely save it and knock it off somebody on their team. And even the announcers were like, wow, Northwestern did 3 hard fouls in a row. And it was like 5 minutes after the flagrant for Gillis. And it's like, it wasn't just 2 different games, first half to second half. It was 2 different games getting called on Northwestern's offensive end and our offensive end. And that's where the frustration lies. We're not afraid of physical games. Edey even said himself, he's not afraid of playing physical and being played physical. He loves it. Yeah. But you've got to call it the same way on both ends. Even if it's different in each half, call it the same on both ends. That's the big thing. But, I was getting over it and, kind of calmed down last night, Monday night, and then happened to make the mistake of watching this kind of documentary on Netflix called Untold Operation Flagrant Foul. And it was on referee Tim Donaghy. You guys remember that scandal with the NBA?
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
it's familiar with that. So it was like early, I think 2000s when the scandal actually came out. But basically, Tim Donaghy, NBA official, he grew up loving sports, grew up loving NBA specifically, wanted to get into calling games, somehow, climbed his way up to that profession. And he started, I think, a few years into his career, a buddy calls him and, was asking him because he's gambling on other things. And he even talked about how he started out gambling at like casinos, playing poker, betting on things with other officials. And then his buddy calls him to ask him about some of the things he's bet on or whatever. And then he goes, hey, do you have any NBA picks for me? And he started off by just giving tips on like, hey, to use your guys' names as examples. Hey, I know Frank's calling the, Detroit Milwaukee game, and he does not like the Detroit head coach at all. So I'd probably pick Milwaukee, and then Milwaukee would win, and his buddy would make money off of it. Or it'd be a game between Philadelphia and Chicago, and he'd go, yeah, well, I've heard from some people Philadelphia's tanking, trying to get their best shot at the number one pick. So I'd go with Chicago, and then bam, Chicago won. And after that happened a few times, and his name kind of got tossed around in some illegal betting circles, a guy named Jimmy Batista met with him in kind of an inner, like the wrestler Batista.
That's immediately what my brain went to.
But met with him and another guy that was going to be kind of the in-between. They only met in person like one time, supposedly, but basically made a deal where the story is for every correct pick that Tim Donaghy gave him on his games, he'd get $2,000 back. But then this Batista guy would go to all his people and tell him to bet that team, and he'd make millions off of it. So they supposedly only did it 47 times, and he was correct on his pick 37 out of 47 times. Okay. He was fined most of the money that he was supposedly getting from that pick, because he only made $2,000 per pick, not the millions they were making off of it. But when it came down to getting found out and he got convicted, he got fined like 30-something $1,000, which is essentially how much he made, or like 40% how much he made, whatever he had left, essentially. But the big thing that kind of stunk from that kind of came out of this documentary was the NBA still paid his pension. Right? So like the guy that was a convicted felon for, supposedly fixing NBA games, the NBA still paid the guy his pension, full pension. So
did he get fired by the NBA?
Yes, he got fired, but he got paid his full pension. And Donaghy also claims that he never fixed a game. And one of the reasons he claims that and brags about it is, even though his picks were always right, he was the third most accurate official out of 60 working the NBA. And he talked about during the game that he could actually influence a game 6 points or 6 to 8 points in either direction, depending on how he called certain rules. Because he basically ousted the NBA on, you don't call certain fouls against certain star players. You have,
do that.
Yeah, you have a gray area of how you can call certain things. You have obviously a limit you can be pushed to by certain players or coaches before you call a technical foul. So the FBI, kind of going back a little bit, discovered this scheme with him and this Batista guy. And they went to David Stern and said, hey, we know you want supposedly a fair game. We want to figure out how deep this may go, how many officials may be involved. We want to put a wiretap or a wire on Tim Donaghy, send him back in the NBA, have him call some games still, have him, kind of fish around with other officials and players and coaches to see how much conspiracy might be going on. Well, David Stern was like, well, we'll give you some videos. You can interview some people, and that's pretty much all we'll do. And so they gave him that and basically came back to the FBI and told him, oh, no, there's never been any game fixing. All the calls are accurate. We had a third party, blah, blah, blah. But miraculously, like 2 hours later, like later that day, this investigation was leaked to the press. And Tim Donaghy's name was ousted in the press, and all of a sudden it was public knowledge. So now it was impossible to go undercover and really discover how deep this went in. And the FBI, David Stern, came out and said, oh, he's the only official that's ever done that, that's ever betted on his games, whatever. Well, the FBI actually ran a survey, I think through maybe a third-party contractor, and they asked officials how many of them thought they had a gambling problem. Okay, so out of 60 officials, how many do you think said they had a gambling problem?
52.
You guys looked it up? You guys know?
No, I'm just guessing.
52.
No, I genuinely have no idea.
What was it?
52. You're right on the dot.
52.
Who was
Let's go. Purdue's going to win the national championship. Let's go.
Who was the guy that Donahue worked with?
Donaghy. So Jimmy Batista was the guy on the other end, the middleman. I can't remember the middle name.
Wait, what was it?
Guy.
Jimmy who?
Jimmy Batista.
Why is it that one? Why is that the pick?
That'd be a heck of a storyline, though.
Why is that the pick?
Of all the photos you can pick, it's him.
So yeah, that's the shady,
the animal.
That's the shadiness behind it. Is the NBA quickly ousted it? They still paid Donaghy his pension, and also that same day or like the next day, they went and got like a $7.1 billion TV deal before any of this really got pushed public. So like they tried to cash in because they were afraid that their, image was going to tank and that people wouldn't trust the game. And they stuck to their story that Tim Donaghy's the only one that ever had anything fishy going on, yet they still paid the guy his pension. So just watching that thing made me mad about Northwestern all over again, because it essentially said what we all think and what we all know, that officials give different people leashes. They interpret rules differently. Painters even talked about how rules like the cylinder rule are, not black and white. They're gray area. You can call it differently on a three-point shooter, and you call it differently on Zach Edey. So it just got me all fired up again, because you literally saw.
Find that. Oh, sorry. I find that interesting, especially when we look at Courtney Green. What was Purdue like? 3-21 against Courtney Green against the spread, something like that.
Yeah,
like it's incredible. Like, imagine how much money is lost. just by that fact, they might pick Purdue to cover the spread at 7.5, and we win by 6 because of some shoddy calls.
You think he goes under an alias like Courtney Yellow and like puts in bets, like not against the spread against Purdue? He's just making bank.
And there's Dylan with the dad joke.
But in order to
not Dylan, sorry.
Not in order, but in kind of jumping on what you were saying too about officiating. Do you guys notice how Purdue was getting the snot kicked out of them that whole game? And I'm not one to say officiating lost this game or anything, and I still don't totally believe that with Northwestern. I think that we just didn't play well in that second half. But it cracked me up how Northwestern was just assaulting Purdue, and then Braden Smith was getting pressed, so he just tried to like split the defenders. He just tried to like burst through them really quickly, and Stephen Bardeau thought that Purdue committed treason for getting that call their way when it could have potentially been called or not called for against Northwestern. And maybe that's just me focusing in on Purdue, but gosh, it feels like the announcers and everybody are always like for the other team, and then anytime Purdue gets away with something, it's like that scene from Breaking Bad where Jesse's like, "He can't keep getting away with this,"
Well, I mean, Bardo was like he did defend us on the bad goaltending call, I guess, but like I don't know. I feel like that call on Braden was 50-50.
Yeah, but a bad clock's right twice a day. So
he also said when they called that on against them when Braden got that foul call, he was like, of all the calls you've called, that's the one you call. Like there's been way more physical fouls that you could have called. So he did, like, he was one of the ones that talked about that one possession. There was 3, not just fouls, 3 hard fouls, just hacking at Edey, hacking it at first. And they didn't call those, but you're going to call the touch foul on Braden Smith. So,
and he also said that they should get away. They should totally get rid of the hook and hold rule.
I agree with that.
Really?
Yeah, I just feel like it's so I'm not a fan of rules that are up for interpretation. So like, and I know a lot of the rules are up for interpretation, but like the hook and hold is so much about looking at the situation and kind of determining what happened. Where like a foul on a shooter on his elbow is pretty straightforward, right? Where the hook and hold, where the hook and hold feels like they are trying to determine what the intent was or something. I don't know what I'm trying to describe here, but I just don't like how it is. It's like targeting in football to me. Like it's very the gray area with a lot of things is this, but the gray area with the hook and hold is a lot bigger to me, and I just don't care for it.
It's just a very specific application. I mean, and so like, I mean, it was created for Isaac Haas. I mean, as a result of what happened to Isaac Haas. And what's funny is that when it happened to Isaac Haas, it wasn't even a foul. And so now it's a flagrant foul, which is crazy. And but I mean, it's just like it's a very like oddly specific scenario to make a rule for, in my opinion. But I guess obviously we don't want guys getting hurt, and if that's like guys get tangled up sometimes. Like there, I mean, I think it happened at Northwestern, like Edey and I think it was Barron got kind of tangled up, and they were like, but both guys like had their hands straight up. They were like, we're clearly just trying to get untangled here. So I was fine with a no call there, but.
And I'll be honest, my opinion about it might just be my ignorance to the rule, and I haven't read the rule itself.
I mean, I think you just can't grab someone's arm and kind of like hold it and like pull toward yourself or like fall down with it. So you can injure someone's shoulder. I don't know exactly either, but I'm just paraphrasing here.
I like that you compared it with targeting, because it's one of those things that it's a big gray area, but like the hook and hold in basketball got out ahead of where targeting started. Right? Targeting started as once it was called, you were gone. And then it was like, okay, well now we can review it and decide whether you're ejected or not. And then it got to the point, I think, where now they can take the penalty off the board and take it, so the hook and hold, they've done that from the beginning, right? Like it's always been, yes, a large gray area, but they've always went and reviewed it to make sure they got it right. And if it's not right, they take it off. So
Yep.
it's not.
I'll concede that. Yep.
It's not the gray area of like the cylinder rule where they just call it and it's called. They take the time to try to get as right as they can. And just like targeting, it is something that needs to be taken out of the game because it does take guys literally out of the game, with head injuries or with an elbow injury, whatever. So I do like that they do that with the hook and hold, that they know that it's such a big call, an impactful call, and it's such a big gray area that they will review it to make sure they get it right.
The big thing that got me was Chris Collins grabbing, was it Fletcher?
Yeah, it was Fletch with 12-8 to go.
God,
what the heck?
There's no reason a coach should even reach out towards a player,
even his own player.
Yeah, even especially
coaches are getting fired for touching their own player like that, let alone
Bobby Knight.
Yeah, and I felt like in the Painter show he tried to say like, oh, I understand what he was doing. I honestly forget. It seemed like kind of like really low hanging fruit in my opinion. Like he just didn't want to talk about it.
He was like, I saw grainy footage of it.
Yeah,
I think he had a stand in the area, and that's what I said. Like he's very good at just getting away from issues.
Yeah,
like that.
it was clear he didn't want to talk about that.
Yeah, he doesn't. He doesn't ever seem like a guy who wants to stir the pot. Like he just kind of wants to move on.
Which is great to have a coach that's so even keel. Even if he's pissed off about something, he's not going to let the public know about it. He's gonna unless Zach Edey's literally, or I mean, any of his players are literally just getting like pummeled, like it's like a fight breaks out. I feel like that's the only time we're ever going to see. And he'll probably be like, "Hey guys, don't do that. It's not nice."
Well, and that brings me back to something else I told you guys about the show, where a caller basically told Painter that he needs to get thrown out of a game.
Yeah,
we want to see you emotional and get upset, and maybe you need to ride the referee because it feels like a Coach Collins or a Coach Izzo yells at the ref, and then they get a string of 3 or 4 calls their direction, and he goes, basically,
it's not part of the agreement.
He doesn't call the guy dumb, but he basically goes, well, that doesn't help the team, does it?
A few more phone calls and Payne's just going to quit doing the show. I mean, it's just
1,000%.
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, well,
and I wouldn't blame him one bit.
I love watching it online because you get to see his like facial expression for some of these questions, and he's just like, damn it.
Yeah. Oh no, in my opinion, it's almost like he gets excited. He's like, oh, I can't wait to like when the guy had the audacity to call in and try to ask him if he's ever considered taking fewer threes and shooting more mid ranges. You could just see.
I sided with that guy for like 5 games after that call because we had that good 6-game stretch of like we couldn't hit the broadside of a barn from beyond the arc, and I was like, well, maybe he didn't. Maybe he had a little bit of a point. And then Fletcher was like, nah, I got this. And David and Brandon and Mason.
I got Beeline up in Syracuse, like melting down over simple questions.
Boeheim, but yeah. Boeheim's losing it. Yeah.
Behind Boeheim, there,
I vote that Frank
was close.
I exactly. Frank on a coach's show one week, and just lay out the stats instead of even answering the question the way Painter does. He just, when he says, "Hey, we need to shoot less threes," Frank would just go, "Braden Smith in 2021, 41% 3-point shooter. Ethan Morton, and just reads down the stats."
Brought to you by Frank's Big Brain.
Frank's Big Brain for all your propane needs.
I'm really glad that the shooting drought kind of is behind us. Although, I mean, we didn't shoot well against Northwestern. We were 0 for 13 from 3 in the second half, and like I stand by the fact that like the officials didn't help, but they didn't cost us the game.
Yeah, I agree.
I compare it to this, like we're walking off the cliff, but we didn't need kicked.
Yeah, that's what I mean. We led for 37 minutes of the game.
Yeah, we just didn't shoot well at all.
Didn't shoot well.
Shot
turned the ball over a lot.
Yeah, 36%, 22% from 3. I mean, decent free throws, 79%, 19 of 24. But then, turned it over 16 times. Definitely can't do that.
6 field goals in the second half. 6 field goals.
That's it?
Yeah.
It felt like a lot. I guess
a lot of free throws.
A
lot of free throws, yeah. But that's only 6 field goals. And I mean, when you go 0 for 13 from 3, I mean, and everyone wants to talk about the technical, that I don't know I can't remember if it was Gillis or if it was David Jenkins. It was clear that Painter didn't agree with it. They said he didn't make a play on the ball. You could see it on Painter's face, and it's like, what did both of them? It was like, what did the official say? And it's like, he didn't make a play on the ball. And like, yes, it looked bad. It looked bad in real time, but they were both clearly swiping for the ball. I don't know how you can make, but like rewind 10 seconds before that, we have a baseline out of bounds play and we throw it right to a Northwestern player. If that doesn't happen, we're not in that position to let the ref make that call. So, I mean, we were hurting ourselves, in my opinion, in that. So, I mean that sucks because they made one free throw and got the ball, but if we had just taken care of our own business, we're not in that position. So,
yeah, and maybe I need to go back and watch it. I think Gillis was definitely going for the ball, but from the angle that I saw, or that at least I remember, it kind of looked like that Jenkins was just like, "Oh crap, got to do something," and kind of went for the. And again, I didn't. From what I remember,
he did come down with his hand, but there was nothing there. But he was also coming from behind, so like he couldn't see. But I mean, like he didn't contact the ball, but like what else would he be swiping at? Like, and then you have Painter. You can literally see it like in the slow mo replay. You have Painter throwing up the foul sign, like foul, foul, foul. Don't let him get to the basket. But I mean, because that was a big story in the second half. Is that they were just like Iowa. We're getting back in transition really quick, scoring really quick, and kind of taking advantage of our inability to stop teams in transition. So, I think we only had two turnovers against the press too. So another good showing against the press. We actually offensively did a lot better. I think we're at 1.4 points per possession against the press and like 0.79 again in the half court. So like we did really well against their press, despite what the Twitter world
would have kind of thought that was polar opposite. But yeah, so unfortunately, just didn't pull it out against Northwestern. There was a lot of factors in that game, but this team has shown this year that they can bounce back after a loss. And so we've got Maryland coming up on Thursday. Braden. Yeah, post-loss Braden. Maryland is shaking in their boots.
But he's going for 40.
We just need Dockish to say something again on his show that I didn't think he had anymore. But yeah, so Maryland has been playing pretty well, I think, which is honestly kudos to them because they've been playing pretty well. I mean, they did just lose to Michigan, but then they beat Penn State on Saturday, which Penn State is a good team. They're a tournament team. But kudos to Maryland because they're winning games with little to no depth at all. And I can't imagine our starting five having to play nearly 4. I mean, some of them do. Like Zach E.D. play, what's he average? Like 32, 33 minutes a game? Maybe
something
more.
Like that, yeah.
Like I couldn't imagine having those guys out there the entire game or for, a good majority of it. So kudos to Maryland. They're definitely a tough team that will probably get better if they can, just even add a little bit of depth to their bench. So,
well, the thing that scares me about this game is that like this is a must win for them. And honestly, we kind of put ourselves in a weird situation here in that, they're on the cusp of that 25 spot in the net rankings. So, potential loss could bump our home win against them down to a quad 2. But this is, you could argue this is a must win for us as well, to stay on that number 1 seed line. So I do expect this game to just kind of be another physical bloodbath, kind of like we saw in the first one. And we really just need to take care of the basketball. We've had 3 rough games in a row. We're just not, taking care of the basketball like we normally do. So I think if we can do that, we can manufacture some good offense and defend like we did last time. If Ethan Morton can handle Jameer Young like he did when we played him at home, I think we have a pretty good chance. Ken Pom predicts a 2-point win for Purdue with 55% confidence. Yeah.
Yeah, so, I think that's the lowest remaining game we have left on the schedule, I think.
Might be. It is, yeah. 55%, which isn't extremely confident by 2. So all the stats and analytics point to it being a very close game. So, we've won some close. I think we've won more close games than we've lost this season. So, can we grind out another close win? Hopefully, it's not close though. Hopefully, post-loss Braden makes another resurgence and can shut these guys down.
Purdue basketball, in a way, reminds me, and maybe this is a weird analogy, but kind of reminds me of Purdue's football team this year, whereas like they kept winning games, but they didn't necessarily beat anybody by like a considerable margin. They just kept winning. I mean, Purdue's had a couple of good, like, pretty good wins, but
Phil Knight, we had some good margins of victory in the Phil Knight Invitational.
Right. But yeah, I just kind of I feel a similarity there in that aspect. But
I wish football was ranked number 1. That'd be cool.
Yeah, when speaking of the close games and us doing well, when I heard that number in that documentary about 6 to 8 points, I looked up our 8-point games, and we are 7-3 in games decided by 8 points or less this season. So yeah, we've definitely demonstrated the ability to play well close. I think with Maryland, it's going to be that same recipe we've used in a lot of our games this year: is get out to a good start, build a lead, and then take care of the ball and get across the finish line.
And you know what I've been seeing consistently, and this was even something that I think Frank mentioned last year, was that it's like that 70-point threshold. It's like who gets to 70 points first tends to be the team that pulls out the win. I mean, all 3 of Purdue's losses, they were not the team to get to 72. Twice they didn't get to 70. Neither team did. But then against IU, IU got there first. So that's always something that is playing in the back of my head. I'm like, okay, as long as we get to 70, I'll I'll feel, as long as we get there first, I'll feel good. I don't care what the score is. But
and then after Maryland, the Buckeyes come to town. Mm-hmm. I feel like I almost need to apologize. We should apologize to the Ohio State fan base for breaking their team.
Don't say it. Now we're gonna lose on Sunday.
Well, no, if we lose to Ohio State, I swear to the good Lord, I'm gonna say a lot of bad words.
So they've lost 11 of their last 12 games since losing to us.
Like a perfect time to start winning one.
Since losing to us on the Ethan Morton 8% play, literally the 8% play that he made there at the end, they've won one game, which is crazy. So they lost to
Minnesota,
us.
Right?
They lost to Maryland. They lost to Minnesota. They lost to Rutgers. They lost to Nebraska. Then they beat Iowa. Lost to Illinois, IU, Wisconsin, Northwestern, Michigan State. I mean, just crazy. And they're still, what are they ranked in KenPom right now? 53rd. So it's I mean, so they're playing well. They're just not winning games,
right.
which is crazy. The 30th ranked offense, 94th ranked defense. It just they were really hot and they just kind of fell apart.
Yeah,
dude, Purdue loses that game. I mean, if Ohio State comes, I mean, it's at Mackey, so that makes me feel, games at Mackey always make me feel better. But by God, if Ohio State comes in and beats Purdue, I will riot in the streets.
Yeah, I tend to I need to stop doing that, but I tend to think of how I feel as a fan. For some reason, I put that on the team is probably on the same wavelength, and oh, we can't think that way. I see Ohio State as oh, that's a gimme win, but it could also be a trap game.
No such thing as a gimme.
Not in conference play.
Yeah, sorry for talking, guys. My bad. Go ahead. Somebody else. I'm sorry.
No, I mean,
it's okay. We accept your apology.
Well, I have to remind myself because I talk a lot, during games when I watch a game, and I'm like, oh, that's a mismatch. You got to attack that, and I'm like, they know that. Yeah. So I always tell myself it's I guarantee that the veterans in the locker room, Morton, Gillis, Edie are telling the younger guys we cannot overlook any game, whether it's Minnesota or Maryland or we're going.
You can't overlook anything from now to April.
Yeah, agreed.
And the next 6 weeks, you have to be a bazillion % locked in.
And so now with the wizard Joe Lunardi saying that Alabama is a lock, that number 1 overall seed, winning is more important now than ever. Yeah. So
I think what Damon was gonna say was that you can't overlook them, though. I think maybe that was where he was getting was you might look at it like, hey, they've won one of their last 11, but we can't overlook them because they are. You took my thunder a little bit, Frank. I was gonna point out that Ohio State is 54th in the net still with all those losses. And that's the frustrating thing is, that's why I worry about Maryland. That's why I worry about Ohio State. When you look at this Purdue team, we deserve to be the number 1 seed, maybe even the number 1 overall seed. You look at where we've been, where our peak is, how we can play. The problem is that every game we play the rest of the way is a quad one game. So, we could lose, we could go 500 and, worst case scenario, back into a share for the Big Ten title. But we still deserve a number one seed because we don't play the schedule that's a cakewalk like Houston. And the SEC is not as strong as the Big Ten. Yes, they have some better teams in there than what Houston faces in the American, but it's it's frustrating in that sense that I know this Purdue team deserves a one seed, but this is one of those scenarios we've had in years past where we stumble a little bit in February and in March and drop 3 or 4 games, and all of a sudden we drop 2 or 3 seed lines.
And then I don't know why he says that Alabama's a lock for the overall number one. They literally play Tennessee at Tennessee tomorrow, so that's not I don't.
I mean, they have several.
Nobody's a gimme. That's the thing.
Yeah, they could potentially lose 4 games. Not saying they will, but like they could. I mean, it's like for him to say that with each team with 6 games or 5 games to play, seemed kind of silly. Honestly, there's no better way. It's like that's just silly. And he's like, well, Purdue's dropped 2 of their last 3. Well, like none of our losses are bad though. Like Alabama got blown out by Oklahoma. Like absolutely blown out by Oklahoma.
Yeah,
like,
all 3 are ranked teams.
Yeah, I don't know. I just thought that was silly. There's like it's just, but I mean, when he, what's a bracketologist anyway? How do you get that job?
It's a nerd. That's what that is.
You study bracketology.
Frank in 10 years.
Yeah. But like no one knows what the selection committee is going to do. Like I mean, it's just he's just an educated guesser.
So I will say I heard something the other day, or maybe read it, where when they talked about Purdue retaining the number one seed after losing to Indiana, they said it basically shows that a lot of people saw the AP poll the way we've talked about it, that it's people that don't even know basketball. It's measuring wins and losses. It's what's your winning streak, whatever. But thanks to the rise in, the use of net rankings and the use of Ken Palm and the use of strength of schedule, that maybe showed itself a little bit in the fact that we stayed number one, that the voters have even started to say, hey, look, let's look at these other metrics instead of just going, well, who won this week? Who lost this week? And that's kind of what the committee does too. So that's why I agree with you that to say Alabama's a lock at the number one seed overall is just a joke.
Frank, do we have any bad losses right now?
I mean, so
Rutgers at home, close, maybe.
I don't know what the official net rankings. But right now in Ken Palm, Rutgers is 27th, so it should be in that vicinity for a home loss. So which would put them around the quad one. IU's quad one, Northwestern's quad one.
Northwestern also got 96 votes in the poll this week.
So they need to keep winning.
They're 27th right now.
Yeah, so like all 3 of our losses are quad one. Rutgers might slip to a quad 2. So TBD. But no, I mean like we don't have a bad loss per se. I mean that's the worst is Northwestern, but I wouldn't say it's bad. We have a lot of good wins too. We have Gonzaga on a neutral floor, West Virginia on a neutral floor, Marquette's like one of our best wins of the season. With respect to net ranking, so it just goes to show those early
by
seasons.
10 today by Nebraska. So.
Not good.
Man, I just remember that game. Beating, squeaking out one against Marquette, and there was a lot of like, oh man, if we can't beat Marquette, how's this season gonna go? And then we go and not only how's the season going to go, but also like, God, how's this tournament in Portland going to go? This is going to be tough. And then we go out and demolish.
I remember waking up at 2:30 in the morning randomly and texting the group chat after the game because I just was like, my body was like, the game's over. Yeah. And I woke up and I was like half awake looking at my screen. I'm like,
yeah, I fell asleep on the couch
crap,
and I was like,
won.
Same thing. I fell asleep on the couch and I woke up and I was like, oh my God, what happened?
So and then the entire group chat went bananas because I was like, holy crap, did we win? And everybody's like,
5 messages.
So like, think about this. Like if we could go back and talk to ourselves, our individual selves on November 13th, we're 2-0. We just beaten Austin Peay. Didn't shoot the ball very well, and say, hey, we're going to be 23-3. We're going to be, basically in control of the Big Ten title. We're going to be a number 1 seed. I probably wouldn't believe future me. I'd be like, no, man, you're not. Like,
I would have urine screened future me.
Yeah. Like I was worried about Marquette. I was worried about getting blown out at Marquette. I was fingers crossed we could beat West Virginia, so have a chance to even play Gonzaga to help the freshmen learn, like hey, this is real D1 play. Like just and the fact that like, just the general sentiment after this loss against Northwestern is so negative. It's like we're in a really good spot. 6 of our last 7 road games that we've lost have resulted in courts getting stormed. Like that's a good place to be. That's a really good place to be.
And coach is crying.
And coaches cry. Yeah, coach's son's crying. I mean,
there's coaches crying because they beat Purdue.
Yes, I mean that's
wow.
Like to Chris Collins. Chris Collins is a great coach. I love Chris Collins, but that's like, I mean, I mean, I don't know if
he's a little handsy.
Well, yeah, that's true. So like, would their first tournament win elicit that much emotion? I don't know, but like that's where we are. And like you can cite the lack of postseason success, sure, that we've yet to achieve. But like when beating Purdue was like you stormed the court. I mean that's a really good place to be. That's why they interviewed Edey after the game. He's like, I'm used to it. That has happened in almost every road loss I've experienced.
Yeah, I was going to say the one loss that we've had where they didn't storm the court was because we were at home.
Well, I think it's road losses. Just looking at road losses.
Oh, I thought that was just general. My bad.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about.
And it's like we're not to the fullest extent, but we're kind of turning into like Nebraska football fans when it comes to basketball. Like we're getting really stingy when we lose a game. We're not happy. We're not happy with 23-3. Get out of here.
Preach it. That's
if
what
you're out here, like you weren't out here crying about Braden Smith, like Braden Smith driving and throwing the, jumping in the air and throwing the ball out. Nobody was complaining about it when it was working 90% of the time. And then we have a couple games where, people are figuring it out. He was kind of getting in a groove and maybe fell to that too much, was doing it too much. Sure, you could say that, but nobody's complaining when he's doing it. The other 25 games that we've played this year and have done, well. So it's all just a matter of like if it's working in that moment or not. Go ahead.
How many times was that slowed down and replayed when he made that amazing pass in the first half out to Fletcher against Iowa? So it's like he succeeds, yay, we're all cheering, and then it's like he turns it over and it's like, what do you do? I mean, so
I saw this really dumb comment about I need to find it so somebody else can talk for a minute, but just this really stupid comment about Braden Smith. That's what he made.
When Frank said that about November, I actually tried to scroll back in the group chat and see kind of what was going on post Austin Peay. And Frank, you were fired up, man. You were pretty fired up.
Wow, was that?
Oh yeah, you were.
You made it all the way back to Austin Peay in the chat.
Oh yeah. Well, I just searched Austin Peay.
He's used to this because he's always late anyway.
Yeah. So, anyways, it goes with the theme of us being here, right? What we're doing, right? Like we want to be the positive of the Purdue fan base because they're always upset about something. They're always mad about how we won, how much we won by. And that's why Frank was fired up, because everybody thought the sky was falling because we didn't dominate Austin Peay the way we should have, that they were pointing out that NC State beat them by 50. And Frank's like, but they had 18 unforced turnovers against NC State. And he was showing videos back then of like, look at this action we're running for Gillis and how they're having to respect his three. And then we just didn't make this shot. And we just didn't make this shot. And, now we talk about how our fan base isn't happy with a 23-3 record. So it's just been the same theme since we started doing this podcast, that the fan base is going to be negative. They're always going to be upset. But there's also that aspect of that 10% that's negative and upset is going to make 90% of the noise.
Mm-hmm.
So, we've got to be realistic there too, that, the whole fan base isn't always negative. It's the loud ones are negative. So.
But you got to soak it in, you got to love a team that gels so well, that it's won 23 games, it's hard to find much to complain about. Like, I mean, and even a month ago, if we could have asked the question, are we going to end the season undefeated? All of us would have said no. It's just like it's like the sky's not falling, I guess, is the point I'm trying to make here.
100%.
I like
it's
it.
That Carson Edwards gif when he's talking I believe it was Harms, and Harms is freaking out, and Carson's just like, relax.
Yeah,
take it easy.
Relax.
I feel like I've said a few times on here this season too, like enjoy the moment, right? Like regardless of how the season ends, this was one of the most historical seasons you'll ever see for Purdue basketball.
And that's what drives me nuts. People aren't happy with 23-3, and oh god, we're number 3 in the country. Like, oh no, the sky's
probably
falling.
even worst case scenario, we still have National Player of the Year in Zach Edey.
Yeah,
even if we go 500, as long as Edey doesn't just start forgetting how to play basketball, he's gonna be National Player of the Year.
Yeah,
I mean, not if the IU star has anything to say about it. So
Jalen Hood-Schifino's not going to win National Player of the Year.
I don't think that's who they're claiming is going to take it from Edey. One thing I thought I was just looking at some stats today. Thought it might be a fun trivia question here to ask the group. So I'll kind of lead us there to where I'm trying to go. But this one shouldn't be a surprise. Who leads the team in assists right now?
Braden.
Yeah. Okay. So of those assists, all of Braden's assists, who is the most assisted player that he gives the ball to and they score?
Edey.
Lawyer.
Okay, there's a disagreement here.
All those alley-oops to Edey? Are you guys kidding me?
Yeah, there's a lot of pick and rolls.
Also, a lot of those corner passes, like you were talking about, that worked before.
Also, a lot of driving kicks.
Is it Gillis?
It is Edey. Yeah.
Okay, I knew I was right.
And then, so he has 40 assists to Zach Edey, and Lawyer is second with 23rd or to 23 assists to Lawyer. But like to me, I thought it was a no brainer. Like it would have to be Edey. Then I started thinking about the driving kicks. Like he drives in and will do some crazy magic and get it out to Lawyer for a 3, and I'll even hit him on a cut sometimes. So I'm like, maybe that's not so crazy. But I just wanted to get your all's see how you responded to that. But yeah. You guys are a smart bunch.
I like it. Thank you, Frank.
I couldn't find that
means a lot coming from you.
Reply somebody made about my post about Braden, but basically they said, just basically saying that Braden's going to continue to do these things in his 6th year as a Purdue point guard, blah blah blah. Basically just saying like he's just not gonna be good or ever improve, which is just insane. Just thinking about how much he's improved over the season already. I couldn't find it, so maybe they deleted it or something, but just wild. They didn't say anything negative about Braden Smith.
Braden's stats, even his per possession stats, far exceed Carson's stats from his freshman year. And I'll have more on that next week. But if he continues on this trajectory, I mean, which I know it's not linear, but like, man, like the improvement he's made from like game 1, like he's starting to score more, and I like it. So
yeah,
he's gonna be a player I'm gonna love to watch progress.
So we're at the hour and 8-minute mark. So anybody have any final thoughts before we go ahead and wrap up?
Everyone relax, chill out.
Yes,
take a deep breath.
Beat Maryland.
Yeah. Just enjoy it. My goodness.
Yeah. I will say I think this is potentially a big week for the Big Ten standings and everything. Yes, we do have a 2 or 3 game lead, but as far as like confidence building goes and just the Big Ten standings and honestly our ranking and where we sit in the brackets, big week. But I think these guys can handle it. They've shown that they can handle pressure. They can bounce back from losses. So I'm excited to see what these guys do. And yeah, I think that we have nothing to be super excited about. Since nobody's got anything to say, nobody's putting their hand up or anything. Go ahead, Russ.
I didn't see anything yet.
No, I was just going to point out, we have talked about recently now the success of the women's team, and they also had a very good week. Won at Rutgers and also beat Northwestern at home. They're sitting at 17-7. So Katie Gerald's has now secured a winning season in both of her first 2 seasons, and it looks like they're in very solid shape to make the tournament. They've obviously got to keep stacking the W's as well, but they're doing some good things out there on the court as well. So
I said it on Twitter. I wish I was as cool as Coach Gerald's.
Right, wearing the
awesome.
Karlaftis jersey, that was awesome.
Yeah, and the Purdue baseball jersey. Just
that was sick.
One. I'm jealous she can get a baseball jersey because I've been dying for one, and a hat. But
remember, just don't ask Kyle Charters to go get that jersey for you. Okay,
do not do that, or the world will end.
Yeah, I can't. Sorry, Kyle.
Don't
do it.
Do it. I don't care what happens.
Just go ahead.
Yeah, I could see like Katie Gerald's rolling up to a game. You know how like the NBA players, the NFL players, they always roll up to the games. They show them walking into the building and they're like wearing these crazy outfits. I could see Katie Gerald's like just one upping her Purdue gear each time. Next time she'll have like a big like Purdue like chain with kind of like Jerry Rice had the 49ers thing. She'll have the big Purdue P all diamond encrusted.
I think if she walks in a camo Purdue baseball jersey, Dylan's head will explode.
My head is gigantic, so that's a big explosion. I mean, it's
that's covering the whole tri-state area.
Yeah, we got to limit the amount of explosions in Ohio.
Hey, listen, we're trying our best. Okay, we're a gritty bunch over here in Ohio.
You're something bunch.
Yeah, you guys have the Paul brothers. You guys can't recover from that. I'm sorry.
We do not claim them. We do not. I don't claim them. I don't know about you. I don't claim them. No, I didn't even know they're from Ohio until now. So
yeah, Logan actually studied engineering at Ohio University. Just fun fact.
Go Bobcats. Maction.
Bobcats. But anyway, thank you all for tuning in tonight. We appreciate it as always. And I know that we didn't play the normal intro at the beginning, but you can find us on Spotify, Twitter, YouTube, pretty well all platforms. So check us out, and we look forward to seeing you guys next week after a 2-0 week for basketball. So boiler up, hammer down, and let's go.
Boiler up.